at Freedom's Lips. And this is Tuesday night, March 8th, 2016. We are going to have a very interesting show for you tonight. I have two ladies coming on. They've both been on my show before, Sue Storm and Diana. Oh my God, why did I blank? Oh yeah, Ostermann. Sorry, Diana. Live radio. Anyway, we're going to talk about smart meters. And if you're not really familiar with them after this show, you certainly will be. Now, please mark your calendar. March 14th, which is actually next Monday, is a really, really big energy day for the planet. And I'm asking everybody on that day, so please mark your calendars to really focus on world enlightenment. And how do you do that? Well, just chant whenever you think about it. And, write this down on a piece of paper so you don't forget. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. And that's all you have to say, and just chant it. And, if you can, visualize that energy coming down from the Creator and just swamping the planet and raising everybody's energies. That's not that hard, huh? So all you have to do is chant, may divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. Come on, practice it with me. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. And that just kind of rolls off your tongue. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. Come on, one more time. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. Shout it. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. Use the power of the spoken word. The more you say it with feeling and emotion, the quicker it will happen. And that's just how energy and light work happens. So mark your calendar. That's March 14th. And that's, like I said, a big energy day for the planet. And then right after that, there's the Ides of March, which, we want to send extra light to. And then we've got the equinox coming up on the 20th. And again, focus on that light, on that energy, on world enlightenment, because it's going to take everybody to do it. But it doesn't take a lot of effort. Like I said, all you have to do is chant, may divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. Pretty cool. You're using the power of the spoken word if you can. And, if you're out by yourself, then just shout it. Because like I said, you're using the power of the spoken word, and this is creation. Now, the first time I actually really understood that the power of the spoken word works, I was up in Montana looking for crystals, and I couldn't find any. All we were finding is little geodes, which were not really the crystals I wanted. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, so I had a crystal on my neck, and I grabbed that, and now I'm speaking to spirit, and I just shouted, see, this is what I want. I want a crystal. I go, I don't care what color it is. This is what I want. I want crystals. I want them now. And, when I added the now, I didn't want it 5 days from now. I want it today, now. So I didn't find any, and then we got back in the truck, and we were stopped at a sapphire cutter's place, and the person I was with that was taking me rock hunting wanted to see if the sapphire cutter would actually buy some of these geodes. Well, after talking to the sapphire cutter for about 5 minutes, he looks at me and he goes, I've got something for you. And he went in the back of his room, and he come out with this huge box of crystals. I mean, crystal points, some were clear, some were smoky, some of the prettiest points you've ever seen. And he was just collecting them, and he didn't need them anymore, so he gave them to me. Now that, my friends, is the power of the spoken word and manifestation. You put it out there and you just don't know how it's going to come back at you, and always comes back in a direction you don't think it's going to come from, and it never looks like what you think it's going to look like when you get it. Although I was really pleased that, I did get crystals. And like I said, they were beautiful. So, hi, Sue. Was that Sue or Diana?
That's Diana.
Hi, darling. How are you?
I am fine, and how are you?
I'm trying to maintain balance with our solar eclipse coming up tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been way out. I mean, it's been interesting.
Going someplace interesting, I hope, when you're way out.
Well, I'm in Hawaii. I mean, so if I'm going to be way out there, might as well be way out in Hawaii. So let me introduce you while we're waiting for Sue. And, you come on to share some knowledge about the smart meters, which I'm really excited over. Not the smart meters, but just what you're going to share.
Okay.
So let me tell people who you are while we're waiting for Sue to come on, okay?
Okay.
So Diana is a regional consultant on smart grid technologies, helping various Stop Smart Meter groups understand the program and the health impacts. Prior to this work, she held various positions at AT&T and later at Lucent Technologies, where she worked for 22 years in sales, sales management, sales training, technical support, finance, and product management. During her last 8 years with the company, she worked in wireless product management with a 2-year stint as manager wireless internet data strategy, in which she researched the technological and societal trends in and outside of the U.S. and delivered numerous presentations on future strategy to wireless carriers in multiple countries. A native of Chicago and one of the first women to attend University at Notre Dame. Ooh, girl.
Yep, first class of women.
Dang. Miss Ostermann has worked extensively with Stop Smart Meter groups in the Midwest. She has participated in several one-on-one meetings with city council members, presented at several town hall type gatherings in Naperville and Michigan, Illinois. And has been interviewed on 2 radio stations, of which one was kind of this one, but we've done a few things together, I have to say. This is of a more serious nature.
Yeah, than the last one, yes. Now, I've actually done several radio shows. That bio was done a couple years back, and I did a presentation in Kauai a couple years back on the smart meters there to educate some of the people there. We had a good turnout when we did that. We had about 100 people show up to hear that. So that was really good.
Hi, Sue, you're on.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, and I'm so delighted to have both you ladies here tonight.
I have to tell you, we're a good team.
I'm sure you are. You guys are both delightful to talk to one-on-one. So to bring you together, it's like, ooh-wee, we're going to have a good time tonight. Mm-hmm. So I've introduced Diana, so let me introduce you, Sue, okay?
Okay.
So for more than 20 years, Sue Storm has been educating citizens on the detrimental health effects of electromagnetic fields on individuals and the environment. Her work has involved numerous radio and TV interviews, as well as writing newspaper and magazine articles on the subject. The dangers of smart meters has been her focus for the past 7 years, working with activists around the world. She has spoken at homeowner associations, schools, city governments, law school classes, community groups, and business organizations. Since 1997, Sue Storm has worked on a national level with many other concerned citizens to make a difference in Washington by changing regulations to protect the public from the adverse effects of electromagnetic and radiation. Well, ladies, again, thank you for coming on. And let's start at A. What is a smart meter?
I'll let you take that one, Diana.
Okay. Smart meters are considered to be, or they are purported to be, a big leap forward in measuring electric fields, measuring your electrical use. The propaganda is that it's going to inform residents of how they are using their electricity and therefore encourage them to use less during peak periods. However, there have been attorney generals and others who have said you don't need a smart meter to tell you to turn out the lights when you leave a room or to, turn off anything that you're not using. You don't need any kind of special equipment to do that kind of thing. They are also purported to modernize the grid. And in actuality, they don't do much to the grid at all. You can modernize the grid by modernizing the grid, by putting intelligent devices in the grid itself, in the transformers and other parts of the grid. The meters are just measuring your usage. Where they get so different from the analog meters is they are measuring in very tiny snapshots of time. Instead of looking at how much you used in a month, they look at, depending on the meter, from 5 to 15 minutes worth of use. And there are models being made that go down as small as 1 minute of use at a time. When someone has your electrical usage in such tiny increments, they know when you're awake, when you're asleep, when you're away from home. They can even tell by the signature of the usage, by the draw of the motor on an appliance, the momentary draw. They can tell what appliance you're using, whether you're using an electric stove, whether you're using a hair dryer, washing machine. They know what you're doing and when you're doing it, which also gives them some indication of how many people are in the house based on what all is being used. So this amounts to surveillance. This is a program to surveil consumers. That data is then sent wirelessly from one smart meter to another in a mesh network. There are other network arrangements, but the predominant one is mesh network. So one meter to another, and then to another and another and another until it reaches a collector meter, which then hands it off to another wireless network, an overlay network, that carries it back from one Wi-Fi router, one wireless router, to another router until it gets back to the utility headquarters. So you are getting, a consumer is getting exposed to wireless radiation from their smart meter, all of their neighbors' smart meters for some distance around, from like a couple of football fields around in each direction, the overlay wireless network, the collector meter, and the meters themselves typically have two wireless radios, one to commute to another meter at one frequency, and a second to use a frequency to communicate with appliances in the home. Smart appliances are coming with little radios in them. The idea is that the meter can then actively interact with an appliance and turn it on or off, cycle it or turn it on at a later time. I mean, they're really wanting to use these meters to take control of your home. So I think I've kind of given you more than you asked for. What a smart meter is.
Take a minute and talk about the thermostat, too.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean.
Oh, their intention to use the, have control of the thermostat.
Well, so like many appliances, a thermostat, if it's a smart thermostat connected to the smart meter, again with this second radio frequency, can turn your temperature down. So during a hot summer day, during the peak periods, they can turn your air conditioning to a warmer temperature, or during the winter, they could turn your furnace down to a cooler temperature in order to avoid peak usage in peak time periods. And, oh, by the way, one of the big reasons these meters are coming out measuring in small increments is because they want to implement what they call time of use charges, time of use electric. pricing. That's the term. Thank you. Time of use pricing. So they want to be able to take your usage, charge you through the nose. Think about old long distance when it used to be very expensive during the day, and then around 9 or 10 o'clock at night it would drop down low. But they're going to have several tiered rates throughout the day depending on what the usage demand is. So even if you use exactly the same amount of electricity as you've always used, you're going to be paying a whole lot more. So they're going to try to push you to use less by overcharging you during the peak periods and try to make you use less in off-peak periods. But there's a problem with that. A lot of what you use is not discretionary. It's not playing a video game necessarily. It's things like doing your laundry because your clothes are dirty, or more urgently cooking dinner because it's dinner time and people are hungry, or your house is cold so you're turning on your furnace. These are not things you can do later. You can't heat your house later and not during the peak period. So most of your usage cannot be changed to an off-peak time. So everybody's going to pay more. That's the bottom line.
And what kind of option do people have to not have them installed?
It depends on what state you're in. Some states allow you for a hefty fee to have usually it's still a digital meter measuring in small increments, but not wirelessly communicating. It will communicate by having the meter reader come and read it like they've always done. Rarely are you allowed to keep your analog meter, and some states won't let you keep it at all. But if you get to keep or get a non-communicating meter, they then charge you not just a hefty fee to have it, to a one-time charge, but then a hefty fee monthly to have somebody read your meter. So they try to make it so cost prohibitive that very few people can afford to take advantage of that option.
And also by installing these meters, they're getting rid of a lot of people, like the meter readers, aren't they?
That is correct. There's a job elimination program, and ironically, in the beginning, it was touted as a jobs program because they'd have installers coming out to swap out the meters. However, the installers typically were not local people, so they were not helping the local communities. They were people that were hired in other places, and then like migrant farm workers, they just kind of moved from place to place to place, from state to state, installing the meters, and then getting paid and taking that money back home, wherever home was, so it's not benefiting the local economy.
Well, you've said a few times that the smart meters communicate using wireless radiation. And, that is harmful to all living things. People don't understand this, that, not only does it affect them, but their pets and even their plants, doesn't it?
That is absolutely correct. And the reason is because the meters, it's a couple of things actually. The meters are pulsing at very, very intense power. They say they're a low-power device, but that's because they average this high momentary peak over a period of time when they're not transmitting. So they take 30 minutes worth of time, and if it's pulsing every few seconds, there's a lot of zeros in between the actual transmission time, so that averages the number down to a low number so that it appears to be a low-power transmission, when actually the momentary peaks are very, very high. They're these spikes of radio frequency. It's kind of like being jabbed by a big, long hypodermic needle. And this is going on average. One utility under oath admitted the average meter communicates every 8 seconds, 10,000 times a day. And the maximum a meter would transmit is around 190,000, which worked out to be twice per second.
Well,
so
you said
go ahead.
Something that they've been declared a Class 2B carcinogen?
In May of 2011, the World Health Organization's unit that looks at cancer, and Sue, maybe you knows what the IARC
it's the
stands for.
International Agency for Research on Cancer. International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC.
And they label various items in the environment as being various levels of definitely carcinogen, 1A, probably carcinogen, 2A, possibly carcinogen, 2B. C, I think, is undetermined, and I think then there's one more level that says it's definitely not. But so they looked at wireless and said wireless as a technology, doesn't matter what the device is, whether it's a cell phone or a smart meter or a baby monitor, wireless technology is a class 2B, a probable carcinogen, because there were enough studies that showed a connection and increased risk of cancer based on long-term use of wireless devices, typically cell phones, because that's what's been in use the longest, and cancer takes a couple of decades to develop. So based on records from cell phones, they've said it's a possible carcinogen, and that was in 2011. Since then, some of the same people who were involved in that decision have done subsequent studies, and they say now that label should be at least a probable carcinogen, if not a definite carcinogen, based on newer studies showing the links, stronger connections.
I'll just add one thing. They were the IARC was going to look at cell phones. They were going to look at the time, I don't think smart meters were really an issue at that moment. They were going to look at Wi-Fi. They were going to look at all these different things. And then they said, no, we're going to just look at wireless. What does wireless do? So that's why it's all classified as a Class 2B carcinogen.
Wow. It's really mind-boggling, and I don't think people really think about how much they are being exposed to radiation from all these devices.
I'll just go in. But what's really scary is in the state of Illinois, ComEd territory, it is mandated, by law that you have a smart meter on your home. So they are mandating a Class 2B carcinogen on every home in their territory, and there's 4 million of them. This is just craziness.
Well, it's, they just don't care, do they? And who paid off who?
You have to ask that question, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Because, that's why I'm on radio, But really, it's they get away with it. The governments, they don't care. Look what they've done with Flint, Michigan, and the water there.
Right.
Look what they've done at the native reservations in Arizona and up there. They did the same thing with their water supply, and they were ignored. It's like, oh, well, yeah, you did it. And how much has the governor of Michigan been requested to appear, at the state capitol to say why he did what he did with the Flint water supply, and he never bothered showing up. And it's like, oh, well, gee, we just requested. Get his ass in there. What do you mean request? Make it a demand. God, but this is the same thing. These guys are paying off somebody. It's dangerous. Is it not?
Well, one of the things they're doing is I don't know if you call it a cover-up. I call it lies by omission. They're not telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. They're giving you a little bit of information, such as it's just a low power, low level frequency. You only get 5 minutes a day. There's one of the Michigan utilities will say it's a text message. That's it. One text message a day from your house. How can that hurt you? I mean, they're not telling you what Diana is telling you. There's just all this other stuff that's going on.
Well, as to the why, there is a book called Captured Industry, and this wireless industry is a prime example where the people who are supposed to be regulating it, the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, and people at the top of the industry trade jobs back and forth. they'll work at the wireless industry, then they'll go work for the FCC, then they'll come back and work for the wireless industry. And so you have the fox guarding the hen house. The people who are supposed to be protecting us are people who, 2 months ago were working in the industry and will go back to working in the industry. So they're all holding hands and doing what helps each other and ignoring all of the rest of us.
I hate to say it, but that is so government nowadays, isn't it?
In so many other areas, yes, it is not just wireless, but
pick a direction. Yeah. They all go work for the government, then they go work for the for the big corporations. So,
like EPA or any of these organizations, they're going back and forth between corporations and the government agencies that are supposed to be their oversight.
So I want to interject here for a second. When I was talking to someone from Governor Rauner's office, because I'm in the Chicago area, he said, well, where was the EPA? And I said, the EPA doesn't have, jurisdiction if that's the right word, but they don't have authority over the smart meters. What do you mean? They have authority over everything. Where's the EPA? So, Diana, do you want to explain where the EPA is? Do you know that answer?
Well, I know part of it. You can fill in the missing details. That the EPA had been researching the effects of wireless radiation on humans, and they were coming up with some disturbing results. And as a result of what they were finding, they wanted to come out with very stringent guidelines for usage of wireless, for how much you'd be permitted to be exposed to. And the wireless industry didn't like that. If you're going to limit how much exposure, that limited how many products they could make and how much they could communicate. And so they pulled the funding from the EPA and forbid them from doing any further testing on the health effects of wireless. And they handed that oversight from the EPA, handed it over to the FCC.
That's got to be one big bed they're all in, right?
You got it.
What about smart meters creating fires?
Oh, so that's your topic. Okay. So let's talk about an analog meter. An analog meter that you're used to, that's also called a mechanical meter, that's on the side of your house, is made of glass. It's made of metal. It doesn't have little components in it, electronic components. It just measures your electricity. It also has been made to have surge protectors. So there's several surge protectors in your analog meter, which is why they don't start fires. I had never heard of a fire started by an analog meter. They also have a very strong material along the back of the meter that touches towards your meter box, and that's called bakelite, and that's a very non-flammable, specifically designed material. These smart meters, well, they got rid of all of that. No surge protectors. They've got they're made of a plastic polymer. I think they call it plastic. There's no bakelite at the back, and there's no grounding mechanism. They also arc and spark, and they also have electronic components, which just aren't stable. I mean, you wouldn't expect your computer or your laptop to be on the side of your house for 10 years, and in cold and in snow and rain, and I mean, how silly does that sound? But that's what you've got in your smart meter. They also don't connect to the meter box really well. The sockets are sort of different sizes, and yet they're slamming these smart meters on, taking off the analog, pushing them on. Under load is what they call it because the electricity is not turned off. How crazy is this? If someone comes in your house and they want to check anything, they turn off the breaker box. They turn off the fuse, right? They're going to change a light bulb or light fixture. Well, they don't do that with your smart meter. They just under load. They just slam it on, and that's it. And they walk away. And they don't clear the sockets either. They don't clear them. In other words, they should be cleaned. They should make sure there's not rust there. There's ways to make it adhere properly, make sure they're the right size. That's not done. So the arcing sometimes is in the socket. And then what the smart meter utilities do is they blame the homeowner. Well, it started in the box. You own the meter box. We own the meter. It started in the box. It's your responsibility. Turn it over to your insurance. How crazy is that one?
Oh, they got together and really thought about this. It's not crazy. It's diabolical.
Yes, I agree. And the sad thing, the really sad thing, is that people are dying. You know, I can tell you 3, 4, 5. I know of at least 6. I know of at least 6 people who have died. I don't know them personally, but I know of them. And how many more? Especially, let's just say ComEd is putting $4 million in the Illinois area. How many people are going to die because of a fire? It's so scary.
Well, you have to think of all that microwave radiation going into the air, all that frequency radiation, and how is that interacting with the actual radiation from Fukushima? And how does that affect people when they're bombarded, by these frequencies? We're breathing in radiation. I mean, that's got to really be hard on us.
Diana, you take that one.
Yeah, you're adding together a whole bunch of things. And yes, there is radiation from wireless radiation from all sorts of devices. And these frequencies add together and sum up, and that's like in a moment in time. If you're bombarded with 5 different devices with frequencies, that all adds together in the moment, but it also accumulates, adds up going forward through time. Think about when you get exposure to sun and you do it day after day after day, you can end up with skin cancer because of the accumulated exposure to the sun's radiation. So in the same way, all of this wireless radiation is doing damage to your body that's adding up over time.
And it's like you said, you can't shut that meter off, can you?
Nope.
No.
Once it's on, and it's 24 hours a day.
And
forever,
if it does,
as long as the meter's there.
If it does stop, then you're charged for the breaking of it, that it breaks down, aren't you?
Well, it depending. I mean, the meter belongs to the utility. The meter box, they say, belongs to the homeowner. So when the fire starts because of arcing between the meter and the box on the side of the house, they say it's the customer's wiring, the customer's electrical system that caused the problem.
Where is safety regulation in all of this?
Your guess is as good as mine.
When you build a house, you have to have permits to put in the water, the electrical, and blah, blah, blah. And if it's not done right, the inspectors come in and they won't okay it. Now, why do these guys get away without an inspection?
I have no answer.
Okay, I do have a partial answer. The American Recovery and what was the ARRA Act, when our economy crashed and they were looking for
is it Recovery and Reinvestment?
Yeah, Recovery and Reinvestment Act, ARRA. They were looking for projects that were ready to go, as they called it, shovel ready. You could just put people to work immediately. And the only thing, or one of the few things they could come up with, was putting in these smart meters. So the government gave a subsidy, paid half the cost, 50% of the cost, for those states and cities that applied for and were approved to get them. And in order to be shovel ready, they didn't want to take the time to do the environmental, what is the NEPA Act, Sue?
An environmental impact study?
Well, yeah, they were supposed to do an environmental impact study, but they waived that. The government waived that because they wanted to move quickly and get something, putting people to work right away. So they cut corners and jumped in and did this.
The other thing is, let me just say one more thing. The Department of Energy never did a health impact study. They just went for it. So when our Congresswoman went and checked it out after Diana and I talked to her. She came back and said no health study. They did nothing to look into health before they issued all these, I guess you call them grants.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like all part of trying to get rid of us and kill us off.
Kind of adds up that way, doesn't it?
It sure does. I mean, it's just boggling. And again, people, you've got to realize how much you're microwaving yourself. I know, before I bet, probably about 15 years ago, they did a study. They put a cell phone on next to a rat's cage for 1 hour. And at the end of the month, they said that rat had enough holes in its brain, likened to somebody who had a severe case of Alzheimer's. Now, they quietly allowed this information to come out through Popular Science, which we all read, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
The top of everybody's reading list, right?
Absolutely. Okay. So it's just, mind-boggling on, you don't even think, or, they say that it takes 10 to 20 years before you see something. Well, my experience, and I really kind of wanted to talk about the health issues at the second hour, is I had a young man come in who was losing hair on one side of his head. And I asked him, I go, what side of your head do you listen to your cell phone the most? And he took it and he put it up to where he was losing his hair. And he went to the doctor, by the way. And all the doctor wanted to do was put him on medication. And I looked at him and I go, honey, you've got severe radiation poisoning on one side of your brain. You got to quit using your cell phone or get one of those cords,
Are you aware that the cell phone manufacturers themselves have a warning buried deep in the owner's manual that says you have to keep it 3/4 of an inch to an inch away from your body? Did you know that?
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Everybody reads the manual, right?
Oh, yeah. Everybody reads all 58 pages or whatever it is. And it's been buried in the owner's manual. And a few places have tried to just put that information, nothing more, just the information that the owner's manual has in it, and put it prominently displayed by the phone sales area itself. They passed a law in San Francisco, I don't remember how far back, to do this, and the wireless industry sued the city for, I don't know if they called it libel or what they called it. I'm not even sure what the basis of the lawsuit was, but they sued the city and said they would never hold another convention in San Francisco if this law was allowed to go forward, and so it was repealed.
Oh, good God!
Let me add a little sum here. They did take their convention out of San Francisco, by the way. But what happened is the city would have to come up with $500,000 to counter, I guess they appealed They appealed the lawsuit, yeah, and they would have to come up with $500,000, so they let it slide, unfortunately. I mean,
although Berkeley went through with it. Didn't Berkeley, California go ahead and say so?
Yes, and it's supposed to go into effect in March, and the CTIA has appealed it on the fact, you want to hear this one? You'll love this one, Diana. On the fact that manufacturers, people who are selling cell phones, I don't know what you call them, salespeople, yeah, whatever, sales outlets, do not believe that there's a problem with the radiation, and it's unfair to them to have that sign there when they do not believe it, and that's what they're suing us.
Oh,
it's unfair to them.
Even though the manufacturer who makes the phone says this is the problem.
Yes. Yep.
What do you think of those little Bluetooth things that go right in the ear? I
would never wear one.
Me either. It's another form. It's another form of wireless. It is less intense than your cell phone itself. So if your only choice were slap that cell phone right up against your cheekbone or use Bluetooth, Bluetooth is better, but better still is to use the speakerphone, use an air tube headset, so there's no wire, there's no signal going right to your head, or to use texting. Those are better or just give up your cell phone altogether, but I know that's a tough one.
Oh, I can hear everybody gasping and going, oh my God. No, not
yeah, they're going to withdrawal just hearing that.
Uh-huh. Has there been any country that actually doesn't allow smart meters to go in?
They have tried in California. There were 57 jurisdictions in California that voted, city councils and county, I don't know what you call them.
County government, right.
Yeah, county government, that voted against them, but PG&E didn't listen. They just went in. In fact, this is interesting because Capitola, California, was one of the jurisdictions that voted against it. They put out an ordinance that said that they cannot have smart meters because they looked into it, and PG&E went ahead and just put the smart meters on. And recently as May of 2015, there was a power surge, and they just exploded right off the walls. So.
Ooh. It would be nice to make these guys replace them with analog, huh?
Yeah, you try that. The excuse they use is they're not making analog anymore. But if we wanted analog, and if enough people wanted analog, I bet they'd start.
Somebody would make them.
Yep.
Oh, God. Right. Yes. Absolutely.
I have one other thing I wanted to say about the fires. The RF also causes corrosion. So corrosion happens faster within the meter if it's a meter that has radio frequency in it. And that's, again, one of the reasons it can start a fire.
It's scary. I mean, the whole thing is scary. And it's all set up to make the company, the corporation, money, and they don't listen to anybody, it sounds like. Boy, they've got a big pocketbook.
Yep.
And a big bed. It must be water bed. What do you think?
Yeah.
God, so where do you focus your activism in? Diana, you're in Michigan, and Sue, you're in Chicago.
Yes, well, all over. I mean, mostly I do Illinois and Michigan. I'm involved in some of the lawsuits in Michigan, working with the lawyers, and but mostly in Illinois and Michigan. But I'm also part of the other organizations, like in Arizona. I'm very good at editing. So if the activists in Arizona need to have something that they're submitting edited, I do that. Wherever I can be helpful, whatever somebody needs something. We all work together as much as we can.
I was going to say that the activists in all the different states do network together and share information in terms of what their local utility, what propaganda they're putting out, and you find almost the same wording, identical information being used from one state utility to another in the propaganda, and so we share our information in terms of rebuttals to the propaganda. So we write articles, we write rebuttals on the Internet. If an article comes out on the Internet that's saying how wonderful smart meters are, and we'll put comments in about, what the problems are, we all really do pull together and share information and share strategies on how to combat this.
I guess I want to say that this is a little off what you had just asked, but my reason for doing this is to protect children. I cannot stand, it's not in my heart, mind, or soul to let a child suffer, to let someone get cancer, to let it also causes concentration problems and learning disabilities, and it can cause autism under certain circumstances. I just can't stand the idea that poor children, young children, the younger they are, the sooner they start, the worse is the condition, the sooner they might get cancer or neurological disturbances. I can't sleep at night.
Let me say a little more about the children and the health part of it, if I can, Sue, about why it's so much worse.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so children that understand that wireless is waves going up and down, up and down, and up and down. And these waves, the frequency has to do in part with how tall these waves are. So if you end up with waves that are about the size of a person or a part of their body or something, it kind of interacts more potently with those areas. So children, because of their small size and the small size of their head and the curvature of their skull, of their tiny skull, it ends up concentrating the wireless radiation that they receive. Their bodies are made up of a higher percentage of water than adult bodies are, and water conducts this radiation. So again, it's attracting more radiation. And one of the things wireless does is break DNA, damage DNA, and children, because they're growing, they are rapidly producing new cells. Their cells are multiplying. And so if you get a bad blueprint, if you get a bad DNA, and they're multiplying so fast, you end up with so many copies of this bad DNA, you much more quickly see a problem, a disease or a neurological problem in children when they've had this exposure. So this is why, from a health perspective, it's so much more damaging to children. The same amount of exposure is much more damaging to children than to adults.
Well, how many of you have seen mothers hand their babies their cell phone because it's entertainment?
I go to a restaurant and I see these young children and young babies looking at these screens, and I want to go grab it out of their hand. I mean, it really disturbs me to know what's going to happen to those children when they get older. And then they're going to go to school, and there's going to be Wi-Fi in the school, and I mean, it's just never ending.
And it's also so creepy that there's even a product, Baby Monitors, that is using wireless communication. And they will put that into the crib with a baby to keep track of whether the baby's asleep or waking up or crying.
Oh, my God. You know, how many women actually think about that? But we're going to go on a break for a few short minutes, and I really want to talk more about the health issues and, you know, what people are going through, because I'm sure if they have them in their homes, they might not even be realizing that it could be because of their smart meters and all the wireless contraptions that's going on.
Right.
And there are a lot. Oh my God. It is scary. I don't know. How much more time do we have, Liz? A couple minutes? Well, while we're waiting, if people wanted
4 minutes. It's 4 minutes, Kathy.
Oh.
Well,
okay.
now it's 3 minutes.
And counting down. So if people wanted to get more information from you guys, how can they find you?
Well, pretty much they find me. This is Sue. By calling 800-323-1790. That's the phone I use for the smart meter. My website is smartmeteriq.com. But the way to reach me is 800-323-1790. And if they want to talk to Diana, then I'll just get her. We'll figure out a way to do a three-way call or get her involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds dirty. No.
So that was the other radio show.
Oh, God, I'm tired now. Well, you make it accessible. And I also wanted to say in the second hour, if people want to call in with questions, you're more than welcome to call in the station. And what is the number again?
310-421-4053.
Thank you. See, I just love bringing everybody in. Doesn't that make you feel real part of the show?
Actually, I have the number taped to the wall beside my desk, so all I had to do was look over.
That is very handy. I knew I could depend on you for that information. So really, if either anybody wants to talk to Diana or Sue or me, give a call later on, and it will happen. Ooh, magic will happen. Yo. So we got to fill in the rest of the a minute and a half now. I can sing. Do you guys want to sing?
So what? We're on a break.
No, not yet.
Oh.
We're stretching it out. I think we got a minute and a half.
We have a minute left, ladies.
Okay. But see, I don't want to talk about the healing aspects till the second hour, so I'm kind of dragging out this minute.
How about if I talk about the cybersecurity situation of a smart meter being wireless for half a minute?
Okay.
Can we do that?
Please.
Okay. So it's really scary that the entire grid, it's going to be connected through the Internet. Stop and think about it. Do you think our wireless grid should be all connected through the Internet? All the information that comes from your smart meter is going to be in a cloud somewhere forever. There is no limit on how long the utility can keep it there. But what I'm concerned about is a hacker hacking into the grid and closing it down. And that's a reality. I don't even think that that's just a theory. To me, in fact, Ted Koppel's book, Lights Out, is really good on that subject. But to me, some foreign hacker is going to work on the grid, and as soon as we get the entire country all together, wow, it's going to be scary if it goes down. The military will be on the same grid as the homes are, as the residents are.
It's kind of like setting it up to fail, like Fukushima, huh?
Yep, yep.
Did that fill in your minute okay?
No, it hasn't. When the music starts, we're on break.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. We're on break. Yes, it was lovely. Thank you. So you guys don't go away. Welcome back, everybody. This is Cathy Bilsky, the Quantum Leap, Let Light Unite show. And again, it's Tuesday night and March 8th, 2016. Now, Revolution Radio is all volunteer. None of us gets paid. We all depend on your donations to keep the station running. So please, check out the station, Revolution Radio, and their donation button. And, we're grateful for anything. You keep us on air. And because of you, we're able to bring you such incredible people like Diana and Sue and bring them on to share their wisdom about smart meters. And, they have a lot. So, again, go to Revolution Radio and look up their donation button. And if you want to find more about me, I have a website, www.angelliteom.com. That's ANGELITEOM.com, where I have all my cool angel light tools and a couple books. And I also have my curse removal there, which you can download for free. I'm on YouTube, and I also have my curse removal there and my soul retrieval on YouTube that, you can watch when you feel in need of a recharge or regeneration. You can check me out on Google Plus, on LinkedIn. Let's see. Oh, yes, Facebook. I'm also on Facebook. But there I get limited a lot to a few sites because I keep getting put in Facebook jail because I talk about enlightenment. And then there is the enlightenment site. So please check that out and join it. And that's Enlightenment Movement 2016 at shutterfly.com. And, I put on there the daily energy work so you can join in and really help us amplify enlightenment this year. So tomorrow when we're going through the eclipse or the solar eclipse, focus on enlightenment and just, in your mind chant May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. It's like I said, write that down. May divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now. And choose light tomorrow and really amplify that energy. Do random acts of kindness. And then remember, March 14th is another high energy day, and do the same thing. It's repeats. Very simple. You can do it. So Sue and Diana, we were talking about smart meters, and can we recap what we were talking about before we go on and talk about all the health hazards?
I would like to just say that the best, I guess website is the right word, the best website to consult is smartgridawareness.org. smartgridawareness.org. And that's run by a health physicist with 25 years experience working for a utility and radiation, specialty in radiation. So if anyone wants to check into this further, really look into it, and go someplace where they're going to get absolutely 100% accurate information, that's the place to go.
Okay.
Does that help?
Of course, it all does.
Okay.
But we're, again, just talking about smart meters and how actually that wireless radiation is so incredibly harmful to everything. Now, we're going to talk about how harmful it is to people, but what about animals?
Animals really suffer. In the ComEd pilot that they did, I called down to that area and I asked one of the ladies who was keeping track, and she said there was much higher cancer in animals than expected. Also, they were getting hip dysplasia, and maybe, Diana, you can explain why there was calcium leaching from their hips. Do you want to take that one?
This gets very technical. The idea is let me step back even and say, your body is an electrical system. The communication between your cells is with very tiny electrical impulses. And part of what those little electrical impulses do is open and close gates. Open gates to let, a substance flow through, or close the gate to block it out. And they call these calcium gates, that it's calcium ions that attach to the gate or separate from the gate and open and close the gates. And the radiation from wireless causes a disruption in this ion flow so that processes that are supposed to be started in your body get stopped. Processes that are supposed to stop, don't stop. Like cancer is growing, that doesn't stop. So it totally disrupts the body's functions and the flow of hormones, and so you have just a whole variety of problems. And you couple that with the fact that being exposed to radiation at night, because the smart meters are 24 hours a day, suppresses the body's production of melatonin. And melatonin is very essential to an immune system. It helps the immune system to function. So you have a depressed immune system, you have your body's communication gone haywire so that the systems aren't working properly, and no wonder you have all kinds of problems in the body, whether it's an animal body or a human body.
But the other things that one lady was saying, actually she was watching the bats just fall dead out of the trees. Trees themselves are getting radiation, like burns on the trees, and are dying. The ash trees, they're saying it's an ash borer, but it's also, they did some studies, and it can be from radio frequency radiation as well. Animals suffer just like people. There's a lot more allergies, aches and pains. People's joints start to really hurt. One of the pain doctors in this area said that every one of his patients had an aggravated condition, accelerated, I guess you would say, pain after the smart meters were put in. So animals will suffer just as much. And I was thinking, Diana, the size of an animal's head, for the most part, is the size of a child's head, so probably the same situation you were discussing before.
I hadn't even thought about that, but you would be right that the size of the skull would be a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you have to think, too, if women wear wireless bras. Well, that also acts as an antenna, yeah.
You are actually correct that the wired bras, the underwire bra, does function like an antenna, does attract the radiation, and can contribute to accelerated breast cancer.
Here's another thing. I was listening to let's see, how do you describe him? He was a agent during the Cold War, and he debriefed Russians on radio frequency. And he was talking about women's bras, believe it or not, and he was saying the shape of the cup where the wire is exactly the shape of an antenna that would pull in more of the RF radiation.
Oh, jeez.
You wouldn't think a guy like that would be talking on a conference call to a whole bunch of people about that subject.
I'll bet you he was a boob man, okay?
And either that or he must have thought it was important enough to tell us about it.
Yeah.
And bless his heart, because it is. I mean, I don't buy bras with underwires like that anymore. It's like,
Not anymore.
Nope, not anymore. You know what, really, one word that keeps popping up when you both talk is accelerated illnesses. Now, high radiation in the air from Fukushima, what I found can bring up back a person's cancer. And when it does, someone who's supposedly beaten cancer, not only can it bring it back up, it usually does, and then it kills them within like 3 months. They're gone.
Another thing I want to tell you, with radio frequency, cancer cells grow 3,000 to 4,000 times faster. So,
well, that's one of the things I was going to say is I don't even think about that amplifying on top of the radiation that we're breathing.
Diana, I'd like you to tell the listeners your definition of ionizing radiation and non-ionizing radiation, where you talk about the computer and how you can smash it with a hammer.
Okay. Here, you don't hear it as much anymore, but in the beginning, part of what the propaganda was is they would claim that all the harm we were claiming was only from ionizing radiation, like getting X-rays or a CT scan or Fukushima. It's this very powerful higher end on the spectrum, the EMF, electromagnetic frequency spectrum radiation. And the point is, at the high end of the spectrum, the waves have more power. They're just more intense. And with that power, they can knock on a light. For those of you who know chemistry or biology, where you've got the little atoms and you've got the electrons and the protons circling around the atom, it can knock an electron off of an atom, and that makes an ion. So the radiation that can knock out an electron, making ions, is ionizing radiation. Radiation that is lower on the spectrum doesn't have as much power, so it can't knock out an electron, so it's non-ionizing radiation. And we all know that ionizing radiation, like from a nuclear reactor, is going to cause cancer. We know that it's breaking DNA, that it really wreaks havoc very quickly on the body. Non-ionizing radiation acts in a totally different way. As we said earlier, it messes with the body's communication system, which then messes with the body's functions. So it is still causing damage, but it is causing it in such a different way. And the analogy Sue was referring to, and early in my speaking career on smart meters, I would talk about you can kill a computer, you can destroy a computer a couple of different ways. You can come in with a sledgehammer and beat it to smithereens, and that's one way to break it. Another way is to come in with a little thumb drive with a virus on it, plug it in goes the virus, totally garbles the software, and it can't talk to itself anymore, and it does nothing. It's broken. That's another way to break it without power. So there's non-ionizing radiation that, if you want to consider it software, the commands, the communication in your body is totally disrupted by the non-ionizing radiation. That is the radiation of wireless, whereas at the higher end, the nuclear and the X-rays and CTs are the higher-powered ionizing radiation.
And the non-ionizing radiation is just as dangerous. It just seems to take longer for it to work because it works through a different system, but it still can break DNA. And those who are in the utility industry will tell you, oh, no, it can't break DNA. They're wrong. It can.
Well, as far as acting, quickly and slowly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that each generation of ours, especially since the 50s, has had their DNA and everything compromised because of all the nuclear experiments that have gone on. So now we're in 2015, and we have young kids dying of heart attacks because of the radiation. And who knows, how much of that is amplified by the damn Wi-Fi or their smart meters.
I agree.
Well, there's more to it even than the amplifying, that there are things that radiation does, very specific things in the body that they have been able to test, that people study this. One of the things is the wireless radiation causes blood cells to clump together. Instead of being individual bubbles flowing through your bloodstream, they make big log jams, big chunks. And just like a pulmonary embolism will block the blood from getting air from your lungs, you can have a embolism in your heart as well. So you've got big rafts of blood clots floating around in your body because of the radiation. So it is causing heart attacks in young people. It's in part because it's thickening the blood, and part of what happens with thickening of the blood is the heart has to work harder to pump this thick goo through. Instead of being thin like water, it's more thick like pea soup, and they're trying to pump this thick stuff, and it's working the heart harder, and so the heart starts to have problems. And it messes with the electrical system in the heart. You end up with people having arrhythmias. That's one of the symptoms I have when I get exposed to Wi-Fi, is my heart starts racing, it starts skipping beats, it starts pounding really hard like it's going to jump out of my chest. Well, you add thick goo blood to that, and you're asking for trouble.
And in my case, with my, if I can intersect it, with my electrohypersensitivity, and mine is not necessarily to Wi-Fi as much as it is to the smart meters, I start to cough, and I cough and cough and cough until I just plain can't breathe. I mean, it's scary. And when I was talking to a biophysicist, he said it's because the heart beat goes off. The smart meters cause the electricity in the heart. I guess you'd call it. Would you call it electricity in the heart, or what would you call it?
It's an electrical signal. It's an electrical signal, yes.
Signal in the heart. That's good. In the heart to go off, and it creates this cough that I just absolutely can't stop, and it's really scary. There are times I think I'm not going to make it.
Wow. Let's go over some of the common symptoms that people usually get after the meters are installed.
Sue, you want to take that, or should I?
Yeah, okay. You go ahead first, and then I'll go after you.
And some more. Some of the more common ones are headaches, dizziness, insomnia, difficulty concentrating, which also can be called brain fog. You just have trouble stringing words together in a sentence. Heart arrhythmias, like I talked about. High blood pressure, again, because you got this thickened blood. And skin rashes, mysterious skin rashes. Sue, you want to add to the list?
Well, in my case, after the smart meters were put in, and I would go out in the yard. Let's just say I went out in the yard for maybe an hour, 2 hours. I'd get blood gushing out of my nose. And in some cases, the kids get blood coming out of their ears. So it just flows. I mean, and I really worry about my clothes. Like, when is it going to happen? And it's so scary. My life has changed so dramatically since smart meters have come into my community. I'm almost like a prisoner of my house. Just to walk out to the mail, to get the mail, I know that I'm going to have either a headache, or I'm going to start to cough, or I'm going to have, in some cases, and Diana has watched this happen, in some cases I just plain pass out. I go straight down. And it happened 3 times. And so it's really scary.
And let me say this about these symptoms. Not everybody gets these symptoms. Some people seem to be more susceptible than others and get them like right away. And it's somewhere, the estimate is somewhere between 5 to 30% of the population gets some of these symptoms. But let me say that a scientist on Oahu, Richard Conrad, did a analysis of people who became, he did a survey before smart meters and after smart meters and what people's health symptoms were. And he found that there is something, he didn't define what, but there is something unique in smart meters that makes previously healthy people suddenly become electrosensitive much more quickly and intensely than any other wireless thing he knows about. And I would say about the wireless smart meters that it's 2 things. It's the very intense pulses and the fact that it's around the clock. Once it starts, it's nonstop. It's not like a cell phone that you could turn it off at night, or you're on a call, you're off a call. You are not having the same consistent, never-ending exposure that you get with the smart meters.
I think the people that I personally know that has gotten sick from them literally had to sell their house and move out into the country.
Yep. They call them, I was going to say EMF refugees, that there are people who cannot live in major cities. And until they find a place to land, they're living out of their car because the metal of the car helps to repel some of the RF, and they just are really having a hard time finding some place they can function.
Yeah, that's true. That's my friends also. And, well, lucky for them, they seem to have found something fairly well. But then I think the one woman is living out of her car.
Yep.
Some more symptoms are digestive symptoms, different forms of digestive, heartburn, and different types of ulcers and different things like that are another group of symptoms. I'm just trying to think. Anything electrical with the brain, the brain fog. Oh, my gosh.
Does it make people angry?
I don't even want to say that on the air. I don't want to tell you how angry.
But how does it affect them? Does it make people angrier when they're around this energy?
It creates agitation, irritation, depression. Actually, those of us who understand this in the Chicago area are concerned about more killings, more murders with
more
guns
violence,
and more violence, and we're concerned about more depression. And
did you see the movie called The Englishman?
I don't know that one.
Oh God, I hope I got it right. Oh, the Kingsman, The Kingsman. And it was about, of course, the English version of the CIA. And, spy movie, and the bad guy decided he was going to kill people and really get rid of them because, what he was trying to do to save the earth wasn't happening fast enough. So, he had to get rid of the people. So what he did, he created this computer chip that went into people's phones and, so they could use it for their phones or their computers. And he gave it to them for free so they could have this free Wi-Fi. And what happened is when he tuned it to a different frequency, they all got really, really angry and they literally killed each other. And just boom, they killed each other and went after, their families. And I'm going, how movies really, really imitate life, or life imitates movies. And they let us know ahead of time, what they, the other side
What's coming
are doing. Yes. And as you're talking about this, and that's why I'm asking, how do people act when they get hit with this Wi-Fi energy? And you just says it agitates them. It makes them angry. Now, when you're agitated and angry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say you're totally then disconnected from the Creator.
When you were talking about, I thought I heard you say, are you angry? And I was going to say, am I angry about this? Are you kidding? This is the craziest thing. When I go to different organizations and groups, and I start talking about this, and I talk about the putting a cancer-causing device on your house and how it's affecting children and how it works on your heart and the frequencies and how people are getting sick and rashes and having to leave their homes and the potential for hacking. And I'm telling you, I get so angry. It's like it can't be. It's like it is a movie. It can't be happening to us, but it is.
This is
and
so
what's even crazier
yes.
is there is no good use for these from a rational perspective, from the propaganda perspective. They say that they will help people control their energy use. It doesn't help you control anything. Like I said, people know when their lights are on and you turn them off when you leave a room, and you don't use, big machinery unless you need it, big appliances unless you need to. So there's nothing magical. There's no help, and studies have shown that. Studies have shown that when they mandate that everybody gets these meters, only about 15% of people see any savings at all. We're not even talking big savings, any savings. And the savings are like in the 2 to 4% range. So it's craziness. The rest of the people, there's a few that it's just net neutral, but the majority lose money, and some big time. So it doesn't help you save money, and it doesn't help improve the reliability of the grid in any way at all. That people are still calling in when they have a power outage. The soonest way the utility finds out is somebody calls it in before they even find it out from the meters. So it's not helping find out about power outages, and there's nothing it does to help shorten the power outage. As somebody had said in one of our presentations, until a smart meter can pick up a downed tree and put up new wires, it's not helping shorten the power outage. It's crazy. It does not, and even one of the utilities, Northeast, and so what are they called now? They changed their name. They were like Northeast
I think
Utilities.
I think they call it
NSTAR. Okay, NSTAR in Maine had come out and said to their PUC, there is no rational reason to invest in smart meters. The cost is so high, the benefits are so minuscule. The meters only last 5 to 7 years, and you can't, whatever little savings there are does not justify the huge investment to put them in. They are a total waste of money, and study after study is now recognizing that they're a total waste of money.
Unless, it depends, if you look at it diabolically, all right, if you're putting in something that is going to make people sick, make them more electronically sensitive, make them irritated. Doesn't matter what the cost
brain fog.
is. Gives them brain fog.
Right.
Gives them cancer. They know damn well what they're doing. It's not rational to us because we wouldn't think of hurting humans or beings at all. And when I say reptilian, well, my God, I mean, very reptilian of them. They don't care. It's cold. It's unfeeling. And it's directed. I mean, this is directed right into our homes. Can't get any more personal than that, can it?
Yeah. Well, and gathering all the data on people, and you wonder how they're intending to use all that.
Can you say George Orwell, 1984?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one of the things that concerned me, and I told Sue this from the beginning, is the 1-2 punch that they know what you're doing by your data, and they have the control of your appliances up to and including shutting off your power completely. So in the dead of winter, they can shut off your power. You know, if you're speaking out against the government, if you're doing stuff that they don't like, and you know, you get reprimanded, you don't listen, guess what? They can just shut you down.
Speaking of which, I was shut down last week. Yes.
Talk for a minute about the what the RSP in Naperville said, that they can turn your energy off for 15 minutes if you're using too much. You know what I'm talking about?
There is a capability in the meters that we were calling it a kill switch. It is this remote capability where they can remotely turn a meter on and off, but they can set a threshold. This is one of the features, more or less standard feature in smart meters, that there's a threshold of usage that can be set, and if you end up using more than your allotment, if you will, if you go over your peak amount of usage, it's just automatically in the software. No human intervention. Nobody's looking at this going, oh, shut off Joe Smith's house. It's just automatic in the software. It hits the peak, and then it shuts off your power. And it shuts off your power for the remainder of the cycle, and the meters at the time were 15-minute measurement cycles. So the remainder of the cycle, so if in minute 5 of a 15-minute cycle you go over the peak, they'll shut it down for 10 minutes, and then they can program in a penalty cycle or 2 penalty cycles. So there's the remainder of the 15 minutes, so the 10 minutes, and then another 15 minutes or more if they want to do that to you. And then when your power comes back on, if you hit that peak usage again, it shuts you down again. And this is all automatic in the system.
So if you're having a really big party and you're using 2 dishwashers and you have all the lights on and everything, and you're overshooting your limit or the allotment, whatever, they can turn it off. It'll turn off.
Now, again, it is initially presented as an optional feature that you can choose, like having a debit card where you're only putting so much money on the debit card, where you will agree in exchange for lower rates overall that you will limit your usage to a certain amount. But if you have, like Sue says, some special circumstance where you end up running a higher power, let's say a colder winter than normal or a hotter summer than normal, and you don't normally use the air conditioner much, and all of a sudden you have a really hot day, and maybe grandma's visiting and she can't tolerate the heat, so you're running the air conditioner at full force, you go over the limit, your power shuts down, your whole house, automatically.
But
and my concern was...
You have to enroll in that program.
You don't have to. I'm saying initially, a lot of these things you have to look at where they start and where they can go. So they start out saying, oh, this will only be an optional feature. Well, okay, this month it's an optional feature. What's to change? Stop anybody from saying, well, from now on we think everybody, in the interest of a green economy, in the interest of reducing electricity usage, everybody's going to be limited to X amount, based on your housing square footage or number of people in your home or something. Here's your limit, and that's it. You can't use any more. And you go over the limit they set, and this is what happens. So they said it would, pardon?
Do you remember when they put, when they were trying to sell seat belts in Michigan? They said, it's the same thing. They said, oh, we'll never ticket you for this.
Oh.
To get it passed.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, right, that's going to work. But, yeah, they said, oh, no, we want you to, it's a trial thing, and we're, we won't ever make it a ticket or a violation. And we just want you to use them for safety purposes. Like, okay. Yeah, smart meters are darn scary. What in
Yes,
the world
they are.
what can people do, if anything, to protect themselves from this energy?
Do you want to take that?
Well, that's a multi-part question. There's protect themselves from the energy, and then there's what can you do to stop this from happening overall, because there are people, if they still have their analog, if their meter hasn't been changed out yet, they can put a locked cage over their meter, over their analog meter, to make it more difficult for a meter installer to swap it out and put in the digital meter. They need to send letters to the utility and say, you do not have my permission to put in a smart meter. I want to keep my analog meter, and then lock up their analog meter on the side of their house. If you did not know about this until it was too late, until you already have the meter, there are a variety of items for sale on the internet that will help you to counteract this at different levels. And by at different levels, I mean you can do something, buy items to carry on you, wear around your neck or in your pockets. There's clothing you can buy that is protective. There's a silver hoodie that you can get. And by silver, I mean there are real metal silver threads woven into the hoodie to help, like a lead shield from the ionizing radiation. The silver will deflect the non-ionizing radiation and protect you from that. So from a personal protection basis, there are things you can get. On a room-by-room basis, there are items you can get to plug into your electrical outlets that will help to protect the room. They operate, like I said, the hoodie is a protective thing like a Faraday cage. It's just silver around you. But the devices put out their own frequencies to counter the wireless frequencies of the smart meter. That because these frequencies add together, if you think about it, if you add +1 and -1, you end up at 0. So if you know what the frequency is of the meter and you have a counter frequency that runs the opposite, they add together and neutralize. So there are devices that will put out a counter frequency that will help neutralize that to protect you.
I was just going to say lessems.com is where you can get most of these items, where you can also get a catalog so you can see what is available. And Amazon.com has some of them. What I have on me right now is something called Smart Shield 360, and there's a portable one and there's a plug-in one. I have 2 portables on me at all times. I even sleep in some kind of a pajama that has pockets, or I sleep in something with pockets, so that I have them on me all the time, and then they're plugged into the wall too. And I do everything that I know how to protect myself.
Do you find when you do this that you sleep better?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I have a neighbor, and I don't even want to say what I think of my neighbor, who has a smart meter that's aimed right at my house and maybe 20 feet away from my house. And he absolutely refuses, even if I pay the opt-out fee, even if I pay the monthly fee, he will not change that meter. And so I have it right aimed at my bedroom. I have to do everything I can to protect it.
Oh, there's the curtains that we got for your kitchen to help block out, too.
Yeah, we could talk about that. We went to Walmart, and they have some emergency blankets, the silver emergency blankets, and I have one under my mattress pad on my bed, and then they had some emergency tents, and Diana and I figured out how to get a rod and the hooks and make actual curtains out of those tents and cover my windows onto my porch. So it's amazing what you can figure out to do. It's sad that we have to do that.
What we're talking about with emergency blankets is a reflective surface. It's a metallic surface on the fabric. So the metallic surface is facing outward to reflect away the wireless frequencies coming in from the smart meter.
Well, then can
Because
you do the same thing with aluminum foil?
It could, except I wouldn't want to sleep on aluminum foil. It would make noise. I mean, probably.
Well, I had a meter, okay, and I actually still do, that told me how high, and how bad the frequencies were. And I actually lived in a trailer in California, and it was aluminum. So I would walk outside and the meter would go like, wee, and I would walk inside the aluminum trailer and it was totally dead. It was like it blocked out all of the frequencies.
When you said aluminum foil, my concern is the thickness of it. There's very thin foil, and then there's heavier foil, and obviously an aluminum trailer is thicker than aluminum foil. So the thickness is an issue as well.
Well, I've been told that if you were going to do it along a wall that you knew that, that microwave was coming at you, you would have to do more than one layer. I mean, I would probably do like 10. But I think that your blanket idea sounds much more practical.
And it
worked. This was the room where she was passing out, where she would get jolted and just drop to the floor. I saw that happen. And so this is why we wanted to get something to go over the window there to protect her when she's in her kitchen.
Boy, is this learn by doing or what?
I didn't understand.
I said it's learn by doing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my phone here. Say that again.
Learn by doing, I think is what she said.
Yes.
What were you doing?
No, learn by doing. We're kind of learning as we go along, is what she's saying.
Right.
Oh,
you're
learn
taking
by
all
doing.
These
Yeah.
concept and ideas, and you're putting them into use, and you're able to actually feel the results in your own body, whether or not it works.
Right.
And I have gotten, since this all started, I have gone out and gotten a really high-powered meter, not a smart meter, but RF meter, so that I can read the frequencies, so that I can, and at the time that I passed out, when I came to, I said to Diana, quick, get the meter, let's find out how much frequency, what intensity was coming at me. And it was pretty high.
Well, was Diana at the room at the same time? So you passed out and you didn't. Did you have special clothes on, Diana?
That would be that different people react to different frequencies. So why don't you talk about that? Are you still with me, Diana?
I had to step. My phone was acting up, so I had to go to a different phone. So I'm back now. So what was the question?
Okay. So I was going to have you talk about different frequencies. Like I'm strong when you're around Wi-Fi and you get so ill, then your heart starts pounding, and then there are times when you have to take care of me because there's a frequency that's hitting me. You're still okay, but I'm on the floor.
This is really weird. It's not the phone. It's something in my phone line. It's like bubbly, like a bad cell phone, but this is a landline phone line.
Well, you're actually coming out clearer.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, but I'm having trouble hearing your question.
Okay. Can you hear me talk about the different frequencies that people react to? Like you have to react to Wi-Fi, and I react to the smart meter frequency, the 900 megahertz.
I'm okay. You're asking about the different frequencies and that different people react differently. And I can say just like some people are allergic to peanuts and some people are allergic to shellfish, in the same way, different people's biology, whether it's due to their size, their metabolism, whatever it happens to be, different people will be more sensitive to some frequencies rather than others. So there are several different frequencies that cell phones are on. The smart meters use one of those cell phone frequencies. The Bluetooth second radio in the smart meter that talks to the appliances is another frequency. Your Wi-Fi is on that frequency in the smart meter, the second frequency. That is also the same as Wi-Fi and, ironically, your microwave oven. So what does that tell you? Your microwave oven and your Wi-Fi and the second radio in your smart meter all operate on the same frequency, this Wi-Fi frequency. It's 2.4 gigahertz. And so some people like me are most sensitive to that. Other people like Sue to the 900 megahertz, which is a smart meter. You know, there are many other frequencies of devices, so some people will react to some and not to others.
Makes sense. So again, if people wanted to get more information or, you know, bring you out to have you speak, how would they get a hold of you?
Okay. So the website, if you want to check it, is smartmeteriq.com. However, if I'm going on to the other website, though, if you want good information, not necessarily how to reach us, but good information, smartgridawareness.org is the best. I don't know. I'm going to go now. Is there some kind of an echo? Okay. And the phone number is 800-323-1790. 800-323-1790 to reach Sue. And if you need to talk to Diana, we'll make sure we find her.
And especially, you know, would you help people start groups, you know, that are standing against smart meters, or, you know, show them how they can, you know, create a good action group?
Actually, we've kind of joined in after the group was started. A few people started, and then we came in as consultants, more or less. So if a few people got together and they were upset about what was going on with the smart meters and needed some advice on how to move forward, that's where Diana and I can come in.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. And also you say that you find that all the utilities are using the same language. So when you actually communicate, you can come up with comebacks, which everybody else can use if it's the same format.
I guess so. Diana, are you still with us?
I'm having a lot of trouble here. I know she was saying about utilities and are responding to utilities and people being able to use that. Can you say a little more? What is it?
Repeat that, because I don't know the answer to that question. Cathy.
Wow, I don't know. It went right over my head.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, one of the things that I wanted to say that we kind of missed out on the time of use pricing, the people who suffer the most are the ones who can afford it the least. Time of use pricing definitely helps the utilities, but for someone who's a stay-at-home mom, someone who is unemployed, someone who is poor and just plain not working, someone who stays at home all day, elderly, disabled, they're the ones who can't adjust their activities, their behavior, and they can't take advantage of the programs, and they're the ones that are being penalized.
Sounds pretty normal to me.
Unfortunately. Okay. Did you have any other questions?
You guys covered everything pretty well. Do you have anything else to say? I think we have about 5 minutes.
I guess what I'd want to say is that if you want to take action, people will say to me, well, what can we do? If you want to take action, you need to get to the people who create the legislation. They have to change the legislation. Get to the public utilities commissions and complain and let them know that there's a problem. The FCC doesn't seem interested. The DOE doesn't seem interested. Department of Energy, Federal Communications Commission. They're not going to make any changes. But if you can get to your local or your state representatives and see if you can't get changes in the state legislation or people to help you to get you the opt-out. we probably can't stop this. It's too big. It's gone too far. But if we can get at least an opt-out for people, of no cost or very low cost opt-out, that would be beneficial. And that's what we need to work towards right now. And protecting each other, helping each other. Because every once in a while there are people who don't have a home because of the electric hypersensitivity, who have to move, who are really, really sick and need help. And a lot of them find me somehow and call me and tell me their situation, and my heart goes out to them because there's not much I can do besides tell them about the mitigation remedies that I've come up with.
Well, but that's, you're also giving them support, I'm sure. And they know they're not alone. They know it's not them going through, this weird experience that many other people are going through. There is something in bringing groups together.
Right. And making people aware of it. A lot of residents don't even know what a smart meter is. How many people really know what a smart meter is? This is very interesting. It just so happens that my nephew's partner is the person that Obama wanted to have in his cabinet for the environment, and he asked him to be in the cabinet. And so we approached him and wrote 4 or 5 paragraphs about smart meters and asked him what did he think of it. Do you know he had never heard of a smart meter? So a lot of people don't know what they are.
Well, they have now what? Smart refrigerators? That scares me.
And smart everything.
Yeah, a smart oven? They got smart ovens? Wow.
And they have smart clothes. People are wearing smart clothes. And then Google had glasses. I think they took them off the market, but Google Glass. And
what is a smart clothes?
Everywhere.
Please tell me. What is smart clothes?
Oh, they're clothes that have a RFID chip in them so that you can somehow reach your cell phone or something. They tell you when you run too fast or little different things. I don't pay much attention to that because I'm not going to use it, so I don't pay much attention. They have the smart watches, though. I really worry about people who wear smart watches because if you think about it, the energy runs out through your body. It goes right up your left arm into your heart, and you've got a smartwatch on.
Well, it kind of reminds me of all those police officers with their radar guns.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, and it's
so
like, dudes.
The important thing, if I were going to sum it all up, the important thing is to keep the smart meter off your house. Do whatever you can to keep it off your house. If you have to work towards changing legislation so that you get your opt-out and so that you don't have to have a smart meter, do what you can to do that. And educate everyone. Everyone needs to know what the dangers are. They're told the benefits, but the benefits don't outweigh the dangers. The dangers outweigh the benefits. The risks are
and
so
most of the
high.
benefits are fictitious.
Yes, that's true. Diana, you happened to get your phone to work right when we needed you.
I heard something about my phone to work, and that was it. This, like I said, this is not the phone like the handset and the phone. This is in the phone line.
Okay.
It's both of my phones, so I don't know what happened to the line that's getting garbled.
Oh, I'm getting used to censorship, okay? You guys are speaking a lot of truth. You're getting a lot of knowledge out, which I want to thank you so much for coming on. And you did share a lot tonight, and I appreciate you staying up late. Thank you.
Well, you're
quite welcome.
good,
We want to get the word out.
Right. I was going to say you're a good host. You're asked really good questions, so it's been fun. I'm glad we did it.
And I let you talk. Whoa.
That's great. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Wow, they are absolutely fantastic, I have to say. So remember, tomorrow there's going to be a solar eclipse, so focus on the light and, chant, may divine Enlightenment descend down around everyone now. And if you want, if you're someplace by yourself, shout it out. Use the power of the spoken word, do it. And remember the March 14th, that's another high energy day, and focus on the light. And actually, you can focus on the light from here to the equinox that's coming up. You don't have to wait for these dates. The more you focus on enlightenment and actually call that energy down on the planet, the quicker we are going to create it. And I don't know, to me, that's really exciting because I am ready for enlightenment. Because once people are reconnected to the Creator, everything else is easy. We don't have any more smart meters because people know and they're not going to want to kill you. Oh, what a concept. No more GMOs because it's the right thing to do not to have them. Oh my God. No more fluoride in the water. Why? Because it's harmful and we shouldn't be drinking it. That is enlightenment today. It writes all this shit. And all that stuff is so reptilian. Unfeeling, cold, and we're talking about a different race of people on the planet who are out to kill the human race. And they're out to kill themselves, and they don't care. They are insane. And on that high note, remember, may divine enlightenment descend down around everyone now, and have a wonderful week